Hey guys, Dilla here with SOS. This presentation is about the state of cybersecurity today. The presentation was given originally on May 2nd at the Hilton Waikoloa Village at the Hawaii Credit Union League's 81st annual convention. We had a pretty good turnout and some good customer interaction. What I'd like to do though is to kind of run quickly through the slides so that anyone who attended the event or maybe missed it can kind of get a brief quick version of what was said, because I know it was a little bit long. So hopefully I'll try to condense it up a little bit for you, and you can still get some of the main points of this presentation and maybe share it with your staff. So hopefully that'll help. So let's kind of jump on in. I always like to start with a story, and we're going to start with the story of Sam. Now, Sam is our property manager. She's a great lady, very enthusiastic, and always has a smile on her face, as you can tell by her picture. And as I walk in and out of the building, we always say hi. And a few weeks ago, Sam, said, "Hey, Attila, how you doing? Everything's great. I love getting your newsletters. It's really interesting to hear about the new kind of breach, hack, or ransom that's going on in the news. But I gotta be honest, I'm getting some cybersecurity burnout. I really don't want to hear about it anymore." And I said, "You're absolutely right, Sam. In fact, I get more information than you do. And I too kind of feel a little bit burned out sometimes, but it's because that these guys that always report on this stuff, they don't tell you what you can actually do about it. They just say, here's how bad it is. And, there's the boogeyman off somewhere out on the dark web that's out to get you. And that kind of fear mongering is not productive. And, who can really relate to this cybersecurity burnout? I sure can. And, you got to take some sort of lesson, some sort of takeaway, something you can learn from each of these events. Otherwise, you can't possibly improve. And so that's what we're here to do today. You're aware that this risk is real because you hear about it on the news. You don't need me to tell you that. You're worried that perhaps job preservation is, job preservation is at the top of your list. If something does happen in your organization, either interpersonal or with the outside world, or it could be even one of your vendors that messes things up for you guys, it could lead to some sort of staff augmentation in your organization. We don't want that. And these kind of incidents, as they do happen, they do erode trust. So even if you do keep your job and there is an incident, then there's some issues perhaps in the workplace that you don't want to have to deal with. And at the end of the day, let me just be clear. This presentation is not a report of how bad things are, but it's really valuable lessons. And I want you to be able to take those lessons, use them today, improve your cybersecurity posture, and get on with your life. That's what I want to help you out with today. Now, you're important to me. This presentation was given to credit union members. Credit union members are my family. Since before 2007, I started off there as a member. In 2007, when I started the business, I opened up the business account there, and I believe that the model works. It's a fantastic thing for everyone involved. But the problem is that these credit unions, such as yourselves, don't have the massive funds for protection as the big banks do. And this is why you as employees are the first line of defense, and your awareness and education increases your value to your organization. Let me repeat that. Your awareness and education increases your value to your organization. Your value. So hopefully I can give you some value so that you can become more valuable. So thank you for being here. Thank you for protecting my money and investing in yourself so that you can do a better job doing that. So before we get rolling, I know there are some of you who don't know me, and for those folks, let me briefly introduce myself. Now, I've worked with Hawaii businesses since 2006. I started off Best Buy's Geek Squad business division. This was here on Oahu, and since before then, I was a CIO on the mainland. I did a lot of tech stuff, but this chapter on Oahu started with Best Buy Geek Squad business. You may have heard me on from appearances I made on KITV, KHON, KHNL, ThinkTech, KGU, PBS Hawaii, Hawaii News Now. So I've been on a lot of stuff, but really at the end of the day, my goal and the goal of my organization is to protect businesses such as yours from this criminal problem and these online threats that just keep getting more and more sophisticated, and to help you keep growing. Because at the end of the day, if you're not growing, what's the point, right? So I really want to help every one of our clients keep growing, and the way to do that is through technology. I have an upcoming book. It's called Doing Business in Paradise, Lessons Learned from Working with Some of the World's Most Compassionate People. This includes advice and customer stories from our unique market, and I share them with the world. And the lessons that work here also work in other markets. So it's a very valuable book, I feel, and it's going to have a lot of impact on a lot of small businesses all around the globe. And I'm going to include a link at the very end of this for, if you decide to go into our website and download the slides for this presentation. There's also an option there to sign up for the book. It's going to come out in an ebook format in terms of audiobook, and most people do prefer audiobook to physical books, so I'm happy to give that out as part of value add to anyone who feels that they could benefit from it. So let's kind of jump right in, how I can help you. Obviously, I've worked with hundreds of businesses. I have insights in terms of how they operate. And me and my staff, we also curate recent cybersecurity events. And there's a lot of reports that come out and things that happen. And we try to take the ones that are the most relatable, not the ones that are too sophisticated for the average person to understand. And we try to share them and the lessons that we can learn from them with others. So I want to give you some actionable ideas, things that you can use today to improve your organization's cybersecurity posture. And I want to give you those takeaways quick, fast, and dirty. And this presentation is it. So here's an outline of the topics we're going to go through. So first, we're going to look at lessons learned from recent reports. First is from security.org. We're going to look at Hawaii's ranking, how they rank, and the results may surprise you. We're going to look at FBI's IC3. This is the Internet Crime Report that they give out. Now, Diligence, this is the cyberclaim study. This is for insurance incidents. We're going to look at who these criminals are, kind of address some common misconceptions, and we're going to look at how these criminals how they get to you and how you can stay protected. So lastly, we're going to look at what world events can teach us, because, obviously, that's what makes it on the news, and sometimes they don't give you an answer in terms of what you can do to improve your posture. Hopefully, I can give you that in this presentation. During the presentation, we actually had quite a bit of Q&A, but because this is a recording, you're not going to get that benefit. So if you do have something to ask, feel free to post it in the comments below. I'll do my best to get back to you, and hopefully I can help you become a little bit better in your workplace. Now, let's just jump right into the security.org report. This came out just a few months ago, and it was compiled from FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, and it covers the entire country. So it looks at each state and says, hey, which state is most at risk for cyber attacks? And of course, we don't care about California. We don't care about Florida. We don't care about New York. We care about Hawaii. So where did Hawaii rank? Well, number one. Yes, you are right. You heard that correct. We ranked number one for the state most at risk for cyber attacks. So what can we learn about this? A little bit on the breakdown here. So there was roughly 316.7 per 100,000 people reported. And so I did a little digging, and I found that we had roughly 1.42 million people in 2018. So that means we had roughly 4,500 victims that went to the FBI. And let's just be honest about that. A lot of people don't. So this number is probably a lot higher. But these are the people that actually went to the FBI. They made a report, and here you go. Unfortunately, it's up about 136% from the previous year. And unfortunately, the state was tied for worst, along with a couple of other states in the country, for the amount that they actually spent on cybersecurity protection. And unfortunately, there is a little bit of a lack of confidence in our voting system. And let me tell you what that means. So in the 2016 election, there was a report released not too long afterward that listed all of the states whose voting systems had been compromised by, let's just call them hackers. And, well, unfortunately, Hawaii was on that list. So what that means is that there's kind of a decrease in confidence of our voting system to be fair and accurate, and that's why we got a CD mark on there. Now, this increase, 136%, That's fairly high. If you look at number 2 spot was Wisconsin, and number 3 was Pennsylvania, and Nevada number 4. But look at these differences, right? The increase for us was over 100%. Well, even then in the number 2 slot, it was less than 50%. So probably wondering why this is. Why is it up so high? It's because I believe we are a trusting community. And if we want to become better protected, we're going to have to be a little bit more skeptical. A little bit of a kind of breakdown in terms of who is getting attacked by this. So a lot of folks under 20 years of age, roughly only 8 million reported. But the biggest number, and this is the one that gets repeated over and over again on different reports that we see, 60 plus, $342 million reporting. Now, could be that younger people are more skeptical and they have fewer resources to steal. But at the end of the day, we want to shift these numbers up a little bit and, maybe get someone who's, a little bit up in age to be a little bit more skeptical and not be so willing to give their personal information out to a stranger who calls them on the phone, which is what we hear about quite a bit. In terms of the types of crimes that are actually taking place, business email compromise is number 1. That's called BEC. Romance and shame scams are number 2. And non-payment, non-delivery is number 3. Now, we're going to talk quite in depth about number 1, number 2. Number 3, I feel that deserves a mention. So let me just mention number 3, what non-payment, non-delivery is. What it simply means is that perhaps you went to a website, it looked nice, shiny, new, had some great products on there. You clicked on something, you bought it, and it never arrived, and they took your money. Well, unfortunately, there's a lot that goes into an Amazon or an eBay or a Walmart.com or HomeDepot.com or any of these online merchants that have a kind of a back-end infrastructure in place that can deliver something in a timely and professional manner. And a lot of these startups don't. Let's just be honest here, right? So, and these are, sometimes well-known brands. In fact, like Zulily, just take a look at their consumer affairs rating. It's pretty poor, but they have a very polished website. Anyone can throw up a beautiful website. Let's just be honest here. It's simple. It's not hard to do. It's quick. But the back-end fulfillment and the customer service and the actual experience of the buying process through that website is to be desired for some of these guys. So I always encourage people. Here's a takeaway for number 3. I always encourage people, go with a reputable buyer. If you're going to do eBay, do a reputable buyer. If you're going to do Amazon, stick with Amazon. They are the world's largest retailer. And in my opinion, if it's not on Amazon, it's probably not worth buying anyway. So I say stick with the big boys. You'll have a much better experience and you're less likely to get ripped off. So let's jump into BEC, right? Business email compromise. We're going to start with something technical. So this slide is for your tech department. And, your technology department should really look at this and make some changes. So it's something that we can do something about. And let me give you a story of something we've seen a couple times and how it all went down. So we get a call from the CFO. CFO says, hey, I got this weird, suspicious email from the CEO. And the CEO is, there was a couple of different instances. One time they were out of town, another time they were actually in a meeting. So let's just say the CEO is actually in a meeting. I got an email that says, hey, this is the CEO. I'm in a meeting. My computer is messing up. I really need to get inside your computer so I can use it. Click on this link to download this piece of software that's going to allow me to get inside your computer. And the CFO was a little suspicious. She says, I don't know if my CEO's got that kind of technical know-how. Seems a little weird. And, it is just kind of odd, though, because it does look like the email that I'm looking at here was sent from the actual CEO, right? So the CEO sent this email, and what the heck, I'm being spoofed. Someone is pretending to be them. And, this can be prevented by a technical fix that takes 5 to 10 minutes, and your IT department can do this. It's called DKIM and DMARC email anti-spoofing. DKIM stands for Domain Keys Identified Mail, Domain-Based Message Authentication, Reporting, and Conformance. That's the DMARC acronym. But really, at the end of the day, these are things that you need to put into place. And so I did a little bit of research to see if any of these organizations that perhaps were in the room, these credit unions, had this stuff done. So I looked at Hawaii USA and their DMARC and DKIM is not set up. Looked at HFS, same thing. I looked at Hawaii Tel, same thing, and Hawaii Credit Union League, same thing, right? So none of these guys have it set up correctly. This is what it's supposed to look like. This is on our sostechsolutions.com. Everything is checked correctly. So you're probably wondering, why should I care? These are just a couple of check boxes. What is this MX Toolbox website, mxtoolbox.com website anyway? What do they know? Well, let's just look to see if anything like this has happened recently, and it has. So back in November of 2016, I went on the air with Danielle Tucker, and we talked all about Kukui Plaza. And Kukui Plaza is a high-rise. It's got an association, and $276,000 was wire transferred out due to this exact scenario that I just explained. An email came in. It appeared to look. It appeared like it came from the upper management. CFO looked at it and said, "Well, this is coming from the management's email address. It's probably fine. They sent the money out, and lesson learned, right? Wrong. I just checked them. Look at this. KukuiPlaza.com. They still don't have their DMARC and DKIM set up correctly. Probably should do something about that." So take that to your IT department. Hopefully they can take it and run with it, get you all set up, and at least prevent that spoofing from happening in your organization. So let's move on to the number 2 slot. This is shame romance scams. Hilarious stuff. This is actually a screenshot from our real website. From our real help desk, and it's from one of our clients. She's a lady, has a good sense of humor. Sent it over, and what it essentially says is that the shame scam is an email that came into our inbox, and it says, "Hey, I am a hacker, and I've gotten inside of your computer. And inside your computer, I turned on your webcam, and I recorded you doing some nasty things. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that video of you doing nasty things and share it with all of your contacts unless you pay me money." And you can tell on this little, on this one here, it was about $800 in Bitcoin. We've seen it as high as around $2,000, $3,000. And this one in particular doesn't have this, but some of the other ones do that we've seen, where it says, "Hey, as proof that we got into your computer, we are going to show you your password." And it could be a password for real that was compromised from your email account from years ago, but it certainly doesn't mean that they've gotten inside your computer. They're just trying to build their credibility, and hopefully you'll fall for their scam. And this only started about 6 months ago, so I wouldn't expect it to continue too far, because people are kind of wise to it. Ladies always kind of laugh and chuckle when they send this over to us. The guys, not so much. So, hopefully you didn't fall for one of these, or know someone who has. And, if they have, well, that money's gone. Sorry. But, to be fair, online romance scams have been around a long time. And here's how it works, kind of in 3 simple steps. Step 1, you create a fake online dating profile. And this is called catfishing, where essentially the criminal looks like, a very attractive member of the opposite sex. And, you want to get to know them, but really it's either a criminal or a bot or some other method of trying to get you to engage with them. Now, step 2 is that, these folks that kind of build trust with you, and that comes through instant messaging, first publicly, and then they try to move the conversation to private, and they try to get you to really get to know them. And then step 3 is that there's some sort of emergency, right? I lost my job, so and so person died, my car broke down, help me with an emergency, and that's how they scam you out of the money. And romance scams, they're really nothing new. And this is excuse me. This is the online version. There is a offline version too. Let me show you how that works. Who here knows of these ruins? It's from Petra in Jordan, and it was in one of the Indiana Jones movies. He goes in there and fights bad guys or something. But the idea is that if you go there today, you may be subject to this guy. This is the love pirates of Petra, and he kind of looks like Johnny Depp, right? And so these guys start dressing like this right around the time that the Pirates of the Caribbean movies started coming out. And here's how it works. Perhaps a young, lovely lady shows up to look at these beautiful ruins. Yeah, she's standing there. A bunch of these guys kind of show up and surround her and say, "Hey, come to our cave. It's going to be great. We're going to have fun. We're going to have a party. You're going to have a blast." And if that young lady does go to the cave, she is going to, be treated nicely and well. And these guys will go and parade her around to their family and to their friends and to the community. "Oh, this is my girlfriend. Oh, this is my wife," and so on. And what happens next? The lady, of course, goes back to her life in some other part of the world, and these guys keep in touch with her, and they start telling her, "Oh, my camel died. We've had this emergency, that emergency," and they almost start harassing them to the point where, of course, the FBI gets called, and they're saying, "Oh, you're going to be my wife," and they try to extort money from them any way that they can. And these guys can have 10 or 15 girls on the line, stringing them along, and just doing whatever they can to kind of make it work. Try to get some money out of them. So that's another example of a romance scams. But I do have some good news for you about romance scams. So in 2018, the Federal Trade Commission reported that $143 million was lost due to these romance scams. And I'll tell you why that's good news, because according to the FBI report, they say that it's $211 million for 2017. So it is a dropping number. That's good news for you, right? Speaking of, let's kind of jump into that FBI report, moving along. So this is the IC3 Internet Crime Report for 2017. This is assembled by the FBI based on individual reports that have been filed with them. Now, 2017 is the latest report. They have not released 2018. So let's kind of dive into that and see what we can do here. So a lot of important statistics. Let me draw your attention to a few. $1.42 billion in reported losses in 2017. As I mentioned before, this number is probably higher because most people don't report their problems to the FBI. These are only the big boys. But even still, they averaged over 800 complaints per day. So, as you can imagine, they are very, very busy. And let's see what else we can figure out here. So, I'm going to draw your attention. These are the types of crimes that have been found, right? So, personal data breach, of course, is at the top of the list there. Phishing, smishing, and farming, still in the number 3 slot. And those are different methods of trying to get your personal information by parading as a trusted authority, either through phone scams, through email scams, through text messaging scams. It all keeps on evolving and still continues to be very effective to getting inside your network. We're going to jump over to this net diligence report now. Now, this is assembled from the insurance industry, so they had a lot of different insurance companies that kind of participated in this, and it really illuminates the real cost of incidents from an insurer's perspective. That is key. These guys are watching the numbers. It's assembled from over 2,000 claims, and 85% of the claims were from smaller organizations, so that means less than $2 billion in revenues. And what they did is they looked at a roughly, let's see here, look at my notes, 1,201 claims, and it arose from incidents occurring from 2013 to 2017. They looked at 298 claims analyzed arising from incidents occurring in 2017 alone, and over 500 new claims collected in 2018 from incidents occurring from 2015 to 2017. So they looked at, the most recent numbers were based on roughly about 500 claims reported to the insurance companies. So a lot of charts and graphs, but let's look at the ones that really pertain to the financial services industry. Look at size of company revenue, right? Under $50 million, 49%. So 49% of all these claims came from under $50 million in revenue. That's probably just about every business in Hawaii that isn't, a multinational corporation that's set up shop here. So, and the types of data they're after is PII and PHI. Who here knows what PII and PHI means? I'll repeat it to you. PII is personally identifiable information. PII means your name, social security number, date of birth, that kind of stuff. Now, PHI is protected health information. And the two together roughly counted for 41% of the data that was targeted by these criminals. Now, you're probably wondering why PII and PHI, why is it so important? Who cares if they have my, weight, right? Let's talk about that. Credit cards on the dark web are valued at roughly $1 to $2. And that's because when your credit card is stolen or lost, that number gets reported to the agency. You can dispute any charges that show up, and the most they can do is go on a shopping spree and, hopefully get a few things before the card is shut down or they get arrested. Now, let's kind of talk about the dark web. I'm going to interject that here. If you're not familiar with the dark web, I encourage you to look it up. It's kind of the majority of the internet. It's where all bad things happen. All these organized crimes, syndicates, political uprisings, drugs, human trafficking, all that stuff happens on the dark web. And it's kind of like the hidden part of the internet, and it's not going away. And it's very hard to kind of police and shut down. So, let's just be kind of clear about that. That's where this stolen information goes, and then gets listed for sale as a commodity. And it's becoming so lucrative that these guys are really getting good at it. And, we'll talk a little bit later about how other more organized, entities get involved in this kind of stuff. But let's go back to PII and PHI. Now, PII and PHI, that goes for between $20 to $40 each. Let's think about that. How hard is it for you to change your credit card number? Pretty easy, right? How hard is it for you to change your blood type? A little bit more difficult. How about if you have any sort of chronic illness, family history? These kind of things are much more difficult. Now, what happens with this data when it gets stolen? It can be used for extortion. So what happens is, let's say they jump inside of a medical clinic, they steal all the PHI records, and they say, hey, look, we're going to hold this for ransom unless you pay us this amount. We're going to release this, all this, private, patient information out onto the dark web. We're going to sell it. We're going to make some money off of it. And too bad, so sad, right? And if you think about it, a clinic would be highly incentivized to not pay, to not have this information leaked, because they're going to have to pay either way. They're either going to have to pay these guys who are holding a ransom, or they're going to have to pay a HIPAA violation. And the least amount for a HIPAA violation is $50,000. The average is $250,000. Not good. So extortion, definitely a attack vector for these criminals. Let's talk about fraud. This one's probably a little bit, low key, but what they do, they grab this PHI, they create an insurance card, and they start to get prescription drugs and maybe sell them at a profit. But it's going to be really, manini in terms of money made. They could use identity theft, obviously, to create lines of credit or create fake IDs. This is something that obviously keeping a good look on your credit score and do some credit monitoring services that can prevent that. And then data laundering is probably really big too. And I'll tell you how that works. So all this PHI that's out there, it can, as a commodity, it can be bought and sold. And they can sell it to a legitimate organization who then uses that for marketing purposes. So you get your information stolen, it ends up on the dark web, it ends up looking like it's a legitimate thing, and they sell it to a legitimate organization, which then sells that to marketers, and off you go. So not necessarily the best business practice, but the guys, 3-4 steps removed may not know that this is actually compromised data that they are using to market their products and services. All right, so some more stats. Let's talk about cost here. From the financial services industry, this is what we care about. Roughly $850,000 is what it's going to cost you in terms of the impact, the remediation, and roughly 12% of these, financial services account for roughly 12% of all these breaches. And the cause here is hacker. It's 21% here. Pretty scary. Let's kind of look over here in terms of how much it costs the business. $2 million was the average cost for business interruption. I say that number is probably higher. We're going to go through a case study that happened recently in a few minutes here, and that will help you, I think, see where that number is really higher. But let's talk about this really criminal versus non-criminal involvement. And there's this idea that this must be criminals that are hackers that are kind of doing this, maybe lone gunmen. And if you kind of look at that number, which is non-criminal, that don't have their ties to some sort of big criminal organization, that number is shrinking, and that has been since 2013 and 2017. In fact, over 90% of all of these problems that occur are strictly criminal. So you're probably wondering, who are these criminals, right? They've been called all kinds of things: hackers, cyber criminals, threat architects. Is it this guy? What about this guy over here? First one's from South Park, second one's from Jurassic Park. A lot of parks here. How about this guy? A teenager, lone gunman sitting in his basement, out there to get you. No, not really. So here's the truth. Criminals are well organized, well funded, and they're usually linked to organized crime. In fact, according to IBM's X-Force, cybercrime is a very profitable industry. The average home robbery is roughly, they get about $2,300 from doing that. The largest bank robbery in U.S. history was $30 million, and yet the annual cost of cybercrime globally is $445 billion. I'm telling you, this is big business. And who here has heard of WannaCry? WannaCry virus? Anyone? What it did is it shut down train stations in Germany to billboards in Bangkok. And there was a later revelation from the FBI that the WannaCry was linked to North Korea. And a few months later, this was after January, these new arrivals were paraded through the streets. It could be that WannaCry helped to fund some of these military efforts. We don't know, but I can tell you this right now: WannaCry was big business. In fact, they've shut down several Bitcoin accounts that were receiving ransom notes. This was at the time upwards of $1 million per day was going into these accounts. So this isn't a few dollars here and there. This was big money. We don't know if it helped to fund their program, but they paid for it somehow. So who knows? Now, you're probably wondering how these guys get to you, and how can we better protect ourselves based on these new revelations, these new pieces of information, hopefully, that I've shared with you, and the things that you're going to get into your inbox over the next months or years. And the way that we're going to kind of answer those questions is by looking at some recent security reports. So there is a new Microsoft Security Report. This was released in March of 2011, and this occurred from Microsoft's internal scans of over 470 billion email messages sent and received by Office 365 customers. Now, if you don't know about Office 365, it's kind of the growing norm and standard for pretty much all medium to large to even enterprise class companies for email, for cloud storage. And it's a good gauge of what's going on out there because they process so many emails, and most of these are business related. That's the finding. Malicious phishing attacks on the rise by over 250%. And these are diversified phishing attacks. And those diversified phishing attacks are their emails specifically designed to deceive users such as you and to request sensitive information while pretending to be a trustworthy entity. Now, these guys, they're getting clever. And there's so many techniques that they use to get you to react. These domain spoofing, domain impersonation, user impersonation, text lures, credential phishing links, phishing attachments, links to fake cloud storage locations, and these really alluring email attachments. So, what's the takeaway from that? Look, Microsoft uses some of the best AI, artificial intelligence, otherwise known as machine learning, on the planet. They can't stop it. It's up to you. So training is your best defense. And, these phishing scams, they wouldn't happen if they didn't work. So back in October, Netflix, they, flooded the market. They got, they notified users that, people were getting emails indicating a problem with their, processing the payment. Oh, we couldn't process your payment, thing. So they were harvesting credit cards through there, and every financial institution suffers from this. I can't think of one. Log in here to complete your account, and then they get your bank account info, and who knows what happens then, right? And so I'd like to give you 4 red flags for phishing emails. We sent this out. It's on our blog, whatever. We'll go through it quickly here. Number 1, strange English. If it's got an S where a Z should be, and there's missing punctuation, and, just the flow isn't right, there's a good chance it's phishing email. Number 2 is rollover links do not match. And this is something that's I'm sure you've seen. On this example here, it looks like that an email was sent to you from Thomas Keller, and it's about an invoice, and you need to pay it right away. But if you roll your mouse over that, it's going to say timeconsulting.co, get PHP, blah, 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 right? That is not going to work because there's a mismatch between the two. Just a little bit of a side note, the way that this occurs is that most of these websites, such as probably timeconsulting.co.th, is probably running something called WordPress, which is a website building framework. And WordPress is a platform with lots of plugins, which kind of are equivalent to apps on your phone. And those plugins sometimes have security vulnerabilities, and WordPress itself sometimes has security vulnerabilities. And as soon as they're discovered, there's kind of this huge wave of attacks that go on to networks. They kind of attacks that go onto websites, and they create these kind of fake landing pages. And those fake landing pages are designed to harvest data and send it off to threat actors in some far off country. Now, to be fair, they are doing what they can, and big entities like GoDaddy recently shut down, I believe, something like 250,000 of these kind of sites that were not supposed to be there. They were selling, fake pharmaceuticals from, kind of like snake oil sites for, and they had like these celebrities that looked like they were, legitimately endorsing these products, but they shut down 250,000 of these sites, and a lot of these sites. They're just not maintained and kept up to date. It's understandable. WordPress is complex. It's not a simple, simple framework. So they do need ongoing maintenance, support, and security, and those kind of things are super critical. And unfortunately, this is where the phishing email comes in. Is that the phishing email wouldn't work if there wasn't a compromised site behind it. So compromised site comes first, then the phishing emails go out. They get your data, off they go. Number 3, suspicious attachment. Hey, you know what? Let me give you a quick rule of thumb for this. If you're not expecting it from someone you know, don't open it. That's simple. Now, if it's someone you do know and you get an attachment, don't open it anyway. Could be that their email is compromised or spoofed. There's lots of different things that can happen there. Just stay away. Simple enough. Now, any email that's designed to make you panic, hey, we need this right away. Hey, we need you to act on this right away. That's a telltale sign that this is probably not legitimate. Ignore it. Now, CEO fraud, such as what happened at Kukui Plaza, that's a perfect example of the worst kind of, thing that you can deal with in terms of phishing email. And let me tell you how kind of CEO fraud works. We're going to walk through the process. So we're going to start at the left. This is a start. Now, attacker. You notice over here it says attackers see if they can spoof your domain and impersonate the CEO or other important people. I've already given you some ideas in terms of how you can remediate that. And I've also given you some real experiences that we've had with dealing with that. So, I'm telling you, there is a time period during which time, these hackers will go in. They will try to infiltrate your organization through, just doing a little bit of sleuthing. This is how they're getting inside of power companies. And, I won't kind of get into that, but I encourage you to kind of Google it, see how these criminals are getting inside of utility providers and the methods that they're using, because it's kind of public knowledge by now. Anyways, they send out the email, and in that email, it can be a little bit different based on who they're sending it to. If it's to the finance department, they're going to ask for an urgent money transfer. If it's going to be to the CFO, they're going to want an invoice paid. If it's to human resources, they're going to fish for W-2s for the employees, right? Now, the third column there, which is the response, this is something that you can do something about. And we've talked about training. I'm going to reemphasize training. This is where you can stop the chain. But if you don't, right, the finance CFO can go ahead and send out the payment. If it's human resources, they'll send out the W-2s and they'll compromise all the employees' PII. So the damage and the fallout is what you need to be worried about, right? If that money is wired out, it's gone forever. If the any of the C-level executives do fall for some of this stuff, they could be reprimanded, they could be eventually let go. But either ways, there's a lack of trust from particularly between the employees and the leadership team. And you don't want to kind of breach that trust through something simple like this. But I can't emphasize enough that doing something about this from a training perspective and cutting down that response can be really beneficial to you. All right, a little summary. Kind of, we've gone through a lot of things, and I know you can fast forward and reverse here, but so I'll blast through this quickly. Email, right? Still the main entry point for criminals. AI still can't match human ingenuity of criminals, and staff training drills and education is critical. It's the best form of defense. Now, you're probably wondering if anything is there anything from like a technical perspective that you can do that might kind of keep things going. Now, we're going to look at the case of Arizona Tea. Who here knows of Arizona Tea, right? It's like the #1 tea brand in America. And recently, this was around, early April, they had over 200 servers and network computers. They all popped up with this message that said, your network was hacked and encrypted. And the company's name was in the ransom note indicating a targeted attack. Now, many of the backend servers were running old and outdated Windows operating systems that are no longer supported. In fact, most hadn't received security patches in years. So it should be no surprise that an attack hadn't come sooner, given the age of the systems and the company's relaxed security posture. Now, they were notified by the FBI that their systems were infected months before the attack, but they didn't take it seriously. Now, of course, first thing you might think is that, of course they probably have a backup, but a day after the attack hit, the staff found that the backup system wasn't configured properly, and the company's IT staff had to effectively rebuild the entire network from scratch, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on new hardware, software, and recovery costs. And, employees would walk in with their laptops and, they'd see this, paper on the door with a handwriting on it that said, do not turn on your computer, do not connect it to the network because it could be infected. Take it straight to IT, right? Now, this ransomware, it infected the company's Windows-powered Exchange server. It was Microsoft's Exchange that's used for email. So it knocked out the email across the entire company, leaving them without any computers to process customer orders for almost a week. So according to inside sources, they were losing millions of dollars a day in sales. So at this time, they're about 60% up and running and probably wondering, what is the takeaway from all this? Now, I'm going to answer that for you, but I'm going to answer it through a little bit of a shout out to my alma mater, UCLA. Who here knows who John Wooden is? And John Wooden had a famous saying, which was, champions are brilliant at the basics. Now, John Wooden, he was nicknamed the Wizard of Westwood, and he's been unilaterally referred to as one of the best coaches of all time. While head coach at UCLA, he won 10 NCAA national championships in a 12-year period, including a record 7 in a row. Now, one of his most effective strategies was making sure that every member of the team was excellent at the basics. For example, he would start a new season by having each of the players practice properly putting on and lacing up their shoes, and then taking them back off and putting them back on again. Strange, right? He knew that no matter how talented a player you were, a blister on your foot meant that the opposing team would beat you. Now, we can all learn from this philosophy. Having a mastery of the basics, especially in the proper upkeep of your technology that runs the business, the lifeblood of your business, and the money of your business is critical. Now, you're probably wondering, how could have Arizona prevented what happened? Here it is. Straight and simple. Number 1, system oversight. You got to ensure that all the computers and software is patched, not running outdated or unsupported operating systems, and receiving regular reports by email showing that this has been done, either by some software or the IT department. Number 2, backup systems. So you got to make sure that the backup system is being monitored. You got reports coming in indicating the backup checks were performed and that it's running on a regular basis. Now, let me be clear about a backup check. Backup check means you take that backup, spin it up, make sure it works, right? Just because a backup is going through doesn't necessarily mean that it's real, right? And we'll talk about that in a minute. Number 3, you got to ensure that security software is installed, updated, and being monitored on all systems, and that a proper UTM is installed. So UTM is a Unified Threat Management Device. We have our own. It's called the Total Security Firewall. And the idea is that this stuff, just because it turns on doesn't mean it's good, right? There's ongoing software, artificial intelligence that needs to go inside of these devices to protect your environment. And if it's not being done, if you have some outdated thing, it's just going to get compromised, and you might as well just throw it away right now, right? And number 4, of course, I keep reiterating staff education. You got to have a staff training program in place, and you got to make sure that your staff is actually completing this education. You can't just like throw it up and expect people to just log into this website and do their training. It's not going to happen. So that kind of ongoing accountability and responsibility should be built into the system that you use for ongoing education. Now, my question to you is, how solid are you on these points? How sure are you that your organization is brilliant at these 4 items? If you're not, now you know where to start, right? And this is real world stuff. So let's look at something that happened close to home. Multiple hard drive crash at the DMV. This happened in March of last year. And pretty much no one was checking the backups. So they lost driver's licenses, identity records, and fingerprints issued from February 25th to September 15th of 2017. So that's roughly over a 9-month period. So a bunch of people, when they were coming in to renew their licenses, they had to bring all this new documentation and get fingerprinted all over again because it was lost. So what's the takeaway that we can learn from this event, right? Who's watching those backups? I mean, there was nothing that could be done. It was just lost, right? So watch the backups, test the backups, put it in some sort of process, log it, report it the way you would at a reputable company. Now, of course, this is DMV. We would assume that they would have their act together, but clearly they didn't. One more case study for you. Who here knows of Toy Story 2? And who knows that the movie almost didn't happen? I'll tell you how. So one day, about a year into production, hundreds of animators, they're all working away, and they're on their screens, and everything suddenly started to disappear. First, it was like Woody's hat, then it was his boots, then Woody himself disappeared, then Al's toy barn, and then like the whole movie, poof, gone, right? So, and some clown had accidentally hit the wrong key on their keyboard, and in like 30 seconds, they erased 1 year of work. And the director thought, we've got a backup. But they discovered that no one had been watching their backups. And so when they trucked them in from the IT department, all was lost. Now, luckily, the same manager was also a new mom. And she'd taken home a copy, or she'd been doing it on a regular basis so that she could review the film while taking care of her newborn baby. So what happened is all the animators, quickly jumped inside their car and they raced over to her place. And they found her computer and they turned it on, and there was the movie, right? They had been saved, and they put the computer into the back of her car, and they put pillows all around it. They were like, please. But think about it, hundreds of animators working, at least 12-hour days for a solid year. I mean, this is millions of dollars, and that would have been gone, and that movie would not have been made, or at least not in the version that you see today. And, if you want to see like a whole little short story about how this happened, just Google "The Movie Vanishes." And it's a pretty fun little video. It's a couple minutes long. Kind of shows you what they did and how they were able to get it all back. But what can we learn from this? Test your backups, please. That's all you need to do. And, to be honest, as an IT pro, I get it. It's boring. It's not glamorous. Watching the backups, it's like watching grass grow. Not fun. It's not the same as, putting out fires and putting in new systems and getting new equipment, making it all work. I get it. But it's critical to the organization. It's got to be done. Just, bite down and get it done. Your organization depends on it for its existence. All right. Look at some global trends now. We're going to jump over to this vast PC Trends report. Just came out a couple months ago. And what they did is the Avast software, which is free antivirus software. They have a paid version also. It's installed on roughly 163 million devices, and so they analyzed it for this report. And what they found was, no surprise, Chrome is the most popular browser, over 90%, but over half of software installed by users was found to be running older versions. So Microsoft Word, 2003, Excel, Java, out of date, right? And Java is the core of many software packages that run on computers. So having it be out of date or finding a vulnerability in it meant that the core of the software was or should I say the framework that communicates between the software and your computer was suspect, and that could be a problem. Computers average of 6 years old. That's pretty old. By that point they're in grade school. So anyways, and 43% were still running Windows 7, 40% Windows 10. Now I'm going to tell you why 43% is such a big scary number. But first I'm going to also give you this other stat, which is Windows 10 systems were running outdated, vulnerable versions, roughly 1/5 of them. Now, Windows 10, Microsoft's supposed last operating system, the way they architected it was that Windows 10 would come out, and then ongoing updates would continue to be released, kind of the same way that Apple has been doing it. And even though everything looks the same from a user perspective, or minor changes are made, it's they're kind of still making major updates in the background. So it's complete new re-architecture of the Windows operating system. I think it's a great model. It works very well, but you got to do your updates, and roughly 1/5 of them are still running outdated Windows 10. Not good. It should really be updated. Hopefully we'll get to that. But there's another report that confirms this Windows 7 problem. This is roughly 40% are Windows 7 systems, so that confirms a vast numbers. And as of April 18th, there was a patch that was released that on Windows 7 systems started sending out this pop-up. And it says pretty much after 10 years, Windows 7 is going to near end of life, which means that no free patches are going to start showing up after January 14th of 2020. It's going to be considered end of life. And if you are in an industry that depends on compliance, such as financial services, that is going to be a compliance violation, because now you're running a version of the operating system that's no longer going to be patched, supported, and any security flaws that are detected are not going to be remediated. Not good. So it's not going to be safe to use. Same thing happened to Windows XP a few years ago, and that's the deal. Microsoft has moved on. They have Windows 10, and we are running across clients who have hundreds of computers in their environments that are Windows 7, and they're having to kind of plan ahead of time to make these changes. So I encourage you not to wait to the last minute, because come January, it's going to be a real stressful experience to try to swap those machines out. You got less than a year at this point, so really start getting on that. Now, I've given you a lot of information, shown you some reports, I've kind of given you some trends in terms of what things are happening in the internet, but I want you not to feel discouraged. And to do that, I'm going to tell you about something that you may have known about. Now, who in Hawaii, and in fact, because this is such a global event, I'm sure everyone knows about it now. We received this missile alert saying to take cover because a missile was on its way, and we're all going to die. And a lot of people were really afraid of that missile scare. So what happened, right? The guys at Hawaii News Now went down to Hawaii's Emergency Management HQ, and they started interviewing the guy. And in the background, they see this, which is, let's just start at the beginning. That's a Windows 7 computer, and it's got a password stuck on the screen. And the best part of this image here is that this is the computer, right, that's supposedly protecting us from missile scares. That Post-it has lost stickiness after a while, so they've taken a piece of Scotch tape and even stuck it on there to make sure that password would stick. Real bad practice. So what's the takeaway from this, right? There's room for improvement at all levels, especially at the top levels of these guys who are out there protecting us. So anyways, don't feel discouraged. There's an interesting, shredded consumer awareness survey that they sent out. This was in November, a couple months ago. We can learn from this also. Roughly 1/3 on the survey, which was about 2,500 respondents. They said that they had been a victim of fraud or identity theft in the past. And about 1/3 of those don't shred the papers or documents containing sensitive information before throwing them away. And in fact, 51% of the participants who we assume were being truthful said they reused passwords on multiple sites. So, anyways, this is not good. So what can we do? We can do a password manager or a single sign-on or at least two-factor authentication that can minimize the impact of this issue. Now, I'm going to pick this up in the second half of this recording, which is going to be in the link below because my timer is running out here, and we'll pick you up in just a moment.